It's the Prodigy Maker Show, episode 62. Chris Lewitt back with you again after a summer hiatus, a summer recess. But we're going live today, and I have a bunch of good shows planned for the fall. And I'm going to try to get this show out to you guys this week because I'm going away. I'm doing some traveling, but I wanted to check in. I know a lot of people have asked me when are the shows coming back, and apologize for the break, but we had a very busy summer camp, a very successful summer camp. Lots of players from all over the world and the U.S. coming to this little club in Vermont where I coach, and it was a great summer. We had a lot of good players, especially this summer. Every summer is different. This summer we had a lot of talented young players, especially under 12, 10, 11, some of the best in the country. So it was very exciting for me because, after all, I am the Prodigy Maker. I enjoy seeing those little prodigies competing and training with us. So it was, we had a nice group of high school age players as well, but I was particularly impressed with the young, talented group that we had, both boys and girls. I think we have some future potentially gold ball winners who were here, and definitely top in their section. We had a bunch of top players who I think will be number one in the New York section, which is called the Eastern section of the USTA, and I think they'll be solid top 10 nationally ranked players as well. So we had a lot of talent in the younger divisions with me, and we had some older boys also go to nationals, which is good, but I was particularly impressed with some of the young kids who we had training with us this summer. I wanted to update you guys on what I've been up to. I have a lot of projects that were a little bit on hold because of the summer camp. Basically, when we do 6 or 7 weeks of the summer, my life is completely dedicated to the kids who are coming to visit here, and my passion and all my energy goes to them, and it's very draining. And I try to take a little break in this month in August. Usually we go to Spain. This year we have the little baby, so we're not going to Spain. But we will be going to Spain over the winter break, so I'll be able to give you guys some more information and observations about what's happening in Spain vis-a-vis the academies and the best coaches in Spain. The academy picture is always in flux in Spain. There's been some major changes, and I'll update you on those. I took a study trip in June, and that will be the context of this show. And I'll try to remember all of my impressions. I took a lot of notes that will help, but I will try to recollect the Spain trip from June, where I went to visit a number of top academies and spent several days at the Juan Carlos Ferrero Equilid, or Equalite, they pronounce it, I think, where Carlos Alcaraz, or Alcaraz as they say in Spain, where Alcaraz is training. And I actually got to meet Alcaraz and watch him train for several days, which was really cool. I'll update you guys on that. And one major change in Spain is the Bruguera Academy has closed. So the Bruguera Academy is one of it's a place dear to my heart. And we can talk more about what happened, but the academy is now closed. The club where they existed since 1986 has been sold, and you can no longer train at the Bruguera Academy. It was up in the hills of Barcelona. Very sad for me because it was like my second home in Spain, and I used to go there to study with Luis Bruguera and his family, and I knew the team there very well. And that academy has closed, which I think is a pretty big story in terms of Spanish tennis, because that was Luis Bruguera is one of the legends of Spain, and that academy was at the forefront of the Spanish Revolution. So it's I feel a bit sad about that, and I have a lot of memories from that club, especially up in the mountains outside of the city of Barcelona, that I guess the place will have to live only in my memory now. In terms of what I've been doing, some updates are I wanted to share with you that there will be a bunch of new DVDs coming out. I'm making them with Championship Productions, so look out for that. I will send more information out to you if you're on our mailing lists and email lists, things like that. So we're doing some professional quality DVDs. Also, we did a course in the spring for coaches and parents, and there were also players there. And the course was about the legends of Spain. It was a course that compared and contrasted Luis Bruguera, Pato Alvarez, and Toni Nadal and their teaching methods and their philosophies. I think it was a really interesting course. I think we had about 10 or 15 coaches at the club here in the springtime. But I'm excited that that workshop was professionally filmed. It was a day-long workshop, and I will be able to we're going to upload it and produce it basically, so you can download it from anywhere and watch the workshop. It will be on the clta.teachable.com platform, which is Teachable is like a service that offers courses. So all of my digital courses, you can purchase them. They're not very expensive. They're usually, I think, like $40, and you can have access to those courses, which I think they're really high quality. Especially the ones that we film professionally. This one was filmed professionally by my buddy. So I'm excited that will be coming out. If you want to learn about Toni Nadal, Luis Bruguera, William Pato Alvarez, who recently passed away, sadly, who won't be coaching in Spain anymore. Now the Bruguera is trying to come back, but the club and the academy has officially closed. These are some big stories from Spain. And if you want to learn about those famous coaches, including Toni Nadal, feel free to check out the online school for Chris Lewitt Tennis Academy. I think there's some really good information there if you're interested and if you have a passion and a curiosity for Spanish tennis the way I do. I think it will be good. Also, I wrote a very well-received article for Tennis Player magazine. It was a technical and biomechanical and anatomical analysis of Reilly Opellka's serve. I don't know if you guys caught that. It was in the spring, and I'm proud of that. I spent a long time basically analyzing Reilly Opellka's serve, point by point, stage by stage, and included a lot of anatomical discussion about what he's doing with his, what he's doing physically with his muscles and joints, and also, of course, the biomechanics of his serve, some of the unique things that Reilly Opellka does that I think are really cool. So if you have a chance to check that out, we will be sending it out in our newsletter coming up. But if you're a subscriber to tennisplayer.net, please check that article out. I spent a lot of time on that, and I'm quite proud of that article. I think it may have gotten lost in the summer camp shuffle a bit, but that article is, if you're interested in the breakdown of professional serving technique and the biomechanics of each stage and the anatomy, the anatomical movements themselves, if that floats your boat. For some of you, you may not care that much, but if you're like a technique and anatomy and physiology nerd, you might appreciate that article. Anyway, I'm proud of that one. And I have a lot going on this year because we are trying to get the second edition of the Secrets of Spanish Tennis book out. That's one of the reasons I went to Spain in June, and I'll be going again to try to catch up on the latest trends in Spanish tennis. And I've already started writing several new chapters for the book, and we're going to be updating all the information. So, for example, the chapter that discusses all of the academies will be updated with the latest information about each of the top academies in Spain for those of you looking to research different places to train in Spain. I have a new chapter on Alcaraz and the rise of Alcaraz, which I think is a fascinating part of a new addition to the Spanish story. Incredible addition, actually. Alcaraz may go on the cover of the new book. And also talk about Antonio Cascales and his impressions of the history. Antonio Cascales is he's a very accomplished Spanish coach. He coached Juan Carlos Ferrero, and I got to interview him in my last trip in June. And he gave me some really fascinating information about the history of Spanish tennis. So I've updated the history section of the book as well with some of the information that I learned from Antonio. And I also wrote a very good article for tennisplayer.net, another article. Usually I like to contribute to tennisplayer.net. That's John Yandel's online magazine, a very successful tennis magazine. That's called The Other Toni. So if you have a chance, check that out too. The Other Toni, like the other white meat, but the Other Toni, because most people know Tony Nadal very well, but Antonio Cascales is less well known, but very, very successful in Spain. And I would argue that he's incredibly influential to the success of Spanish tennis. He has been very influential. He coached Juan Carlos Ferrero, and he's contributed to he's been helping Carlos Alcaraz as well, which is pretty amazing. He has two stars like that in his stable, and he's the part owner of the Juan Carlos Ferrero Academy, Equilib. So the Secrets of Spanish Tennis book we are planning to try to get it out in spring 2023. So put that on in your calendars. And I have two other Spanish books that are also in the works, and I've mentioned that to you guys. We have the one on Spanish tennis wisdom, which is all about it's like a quote book with all of the wisdom that I've learned from traveling so many years in Spain. It will have quotes from anyone from Tony Nadal, Luis Bruguera, Pato Alvarez, Jose Higueras, all the great coaches whom I've studied. I've had the good fortune of studying with, and it will be compiled into different chapters where you can easily look up different subjects and get some Spanish wisdom, maybe to share with your son or daughter, or to share with a friend, or share with a student. And I think it'll be a really good resource, and it'll be a fun read too. And then I'm very excited about writing a new book called Spanish Tennis Tactics, where the book is solely dedicated to tactics. There's not a lot of good tactical books out there in the tennis world, and I want to get this book written about the tactical and strategic aspects that are taught in Spain, that are stressed in Spain, the tactical and strategic priorities from Spain that I've learned from those legends whom I've studied with. So those three, if we can get them all going, then it would make a nice trilogy. We have kind of like a 3-pack that we could also sell in bookstores and online. So I think that's kind of cool to have the beginning of a library of Spanish tennis books, because no one else is really writing about Spanish tennis. I don't think anyone has traveled or studied as extensively in Spain as I have. So I have this unique knowledge, and I figure I should share it because it's a passion of mine, and I know a lot of you out there are interested in what's actually happening in Spain and how do they manage to be so successful. Now we have Alcaraz coming up, and it's very exciting. You see another successful Spanish player coming from this very small country, because they have such a good teaching system, although some people say it's not a system. After interviewing Antonio Cascales, it makes me almost question that. Like, I think there is definitely a system going on there, and in the book I tried to talk about the key elements of that system, even though a lot of coaches in Spain do not like to talk about a system. They don't like that word. So that's sort of like a taboo word, but there's definitely a method, and there's a consistent philosophy that's being taught across all the academies pretty much, and among all the great coaches in Spain, all the most influential coaches. There's definitely themes, and there's patterns that you see if you travel around and spend enough time in Spain. And I think that's what I tried to capture in the Secrets of a Spanish Tennis book, and I think people appreciated that because it was very simply explained, and you could understand that even though there are lots of differences among the coaches there and among the academies, there are these parallels that run true all across the country. So when I first went to Spain in June, I spent the first 2 days in Barcelona, and I wanted to go back to Sanchez-Casal Academy. So if you have any questions, if you happen to be listening live, or you want to shoot me questions later, you can ask me anything about Spain or any other junior development questions that have been bugging you since I took the summer off. But basically, in Barcelona, if you're going to Barcelona, where are you going to train? It used to be that Sanchez-Casal, they were the big daddy, that they were the big gorilla in Spain. They had the most famous players like Dimitrov, and Andy Murray was training there, and Pato Alvarez was there. Now Pato Alvarez has passed, but they had a cadre of former Davis Cup players from Spain. They had this incredibly rich tapestry of coaches and knowledge there. And it was the most amazing place, like in the I would say early 2000s, And I think the luster, the sheen of the academy has maybe softened a bit or dulled a bit, and it's not as famous anymore. One of the main reasons is, well, one, I don't think they have as many top professionals training there anymore, and that's definitely what I witnessed when I was there recently. You know, that sort of that glamour, that having some of the celebrities on site is usually a very big draw for junior players, and I don't think you need to have that to offer professional world-class training, but it certainly helps in terms of word of mouth, and it's a draw. It's like a marketing draw too. And I think Sanchez-Casal has moved for, I'm not sure why. I was going to ask Emilio what's going on with their plan, because quick question here. What do you think is going to happen to UTR now that USTA is not using their ratings anymore? I think UTR, it's an interesting question. Feel free to shoot me any questions, guys, and I'll just sort of rap about Spain and my trip and my observations and thoughts. But UTR, I think, is potentially in trouble because number one, I'll be honest with you, I don't like how commercial, and if UTR, to me, they strike me as very mercenary. If you're familiar with that word, mercenary means I think they're really driven around money and making money, and they're very commercially driven, and that is a turnoff for me. Even though I have a UTR club, I offer a lot of UTR tournaments because they are in vogue right now and they're very popular. I'm not sure that popularity will last, and I'm not sure how long UTR can survive with their current business model. I know they have big plans, but I don't know how much money they're making. I don't know if they're very profitable or not. I actually haven't researched that, but I'm curious as to whether they are profitable. And what did you hear from UTR tournament directors? Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. Like, I paid $2,000. I have a small club. I paid $2,000 the previous year just to host UTR events, and then they changed the subscription rates, and I was able to just do, because I usually run more tournaments in the summer. One of the persons, we're getting some comments here live, and the contributors saying that they're very money driven. So I feel that way about UTR. I feel that's a turnoff. I was able to get a package where I don't have to pay an annual fee, which really helped me out as a small business. But I felt a lot of pressure to buy a very expensive annual package, even though most of we do tournaments during the winter, but we do a lot more events in the summertime. So I felt like I definitely overpaid for what I was getting. But in the previous year, fortunately, they let me have a new like more flexible subscription for my club, because we're not like a big club. We're not doing a huge numbers like some large club systems. But I think in the end, it may. I don't know what's going to happen to the business. So strictly speaking, from a business perspective, you have USDA. They're gonna, if you're not aligned with USDA, if USDA is not going to, I don't know the details of that relationship with USDA and UTR, but if they've fallen apart, they're not going to work together. I think that's obviously damaging for UTR. You also have the ITF with their tennis rating coming out, and they're going to be fighting. There's a lot of people competing in this space, which I think raises a lot of alarm bells for me, just from a business perspective, because when you have a lot of people in a small space, I mean, how much money is there really to go around in the tennis rating and tournament promoting world? I mean, I don't know if it's a I don't know what the size of that market is, but I mean, my feeling is the more people that get into that space, the less there is to go around. It becomes less profitable, and you have this company that's very money driven, very mercenary. I don't know what happens to them from here. So that's all I can say about that. I don't know the details of their balance sheet, or if they're even profitable, or I don't know if they're doing gangbusters. I know they've grown a lot, but you can grow. Like, think of the .com era. Like, you can grow your company very fast, but that doesn't mean that you're making good money. Doesn't mean that you're profitable, and sometimes those businesses can crash and burn. So I don't know if that's going to be the story here with UTR, but I think they definitely need alliances. And if they're losing alliances, that probably bodes poorly for them in the future. That's definitely a negative for them. Anyway, if you have any more questions about that, let me know. I wanted to talk about Sanchez-Casal a bit, because I feel like, yeah, just we have a question about Spain and where to train if you're like a futures player. I get lots of queries like that. Just shoot me an email, or you can message me directly. My personal cell is 914-462-2912, or you can WhatsApp me at the same number. And I answer lots of questions about where to train in Spain and trying to find the best fit. That's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, but I get questions like that almost weekly. So feel free to hit me up, and I'll answer that. There's lots of good options in Spain. Some of those I will talk about here in the coming segments of the show. But Sanchez-Casal, I feel, has lost some of its luster, but I think it's a really interesting place, because the academy system, or the method, is still really, really good. So I was there for a few days. I was there one day, just kind of walking the grounds and observing, and then I was there two more days, another weekday and also a Saturday morning. I was able to sit in with the director there, whose name is Stefan Ortega. Great guy. I never met him before. Really, really, actually, really a dynamic coach. Like, he's a coach's coach. Like, he's on the court all the time. He's got a great charisma, great personality. He's very, very funny, and he's intense. He has a lot of great of the qualities you'd look for in a coach, not just a guy who's kind of like, shuffling coaches from court to court or walking around with a clipboard. He seemed to me like a coach's coach, and I thought his style was very good. So he's in charge there now, but some of the heavyweights are not there anymore. They used to have a lot of celebrity pros there. They used to have like an amazing team of former Davis Cup coaches. So I think they've lost some of the formula or the recipe that made them legendary back, maybe 10, 15 or more years ago. But I still think that's a very good place to train. What's really strong there is the school. Emilio is really focusing on the school aspect, like to get a good quality education. So usually when I recommend Sanchez-Casal, and if parents are serious about getting a private school education or getting the best possible education, that's like one of the first places I ask them to look, because the school is very professionally run, and that's one of their big advantages. But also the teaching system there, if you understand the history of their methodology, it's amazing. It's potentially, arguably, still the best teaching method maybe in the world. The teaching system there was developed directly by William Pato Alvarez. And William Pato Alvarez is an absolute, I'm convinced, genius tennis coach. A lot of people don't know his story. Part of why I wrote the book was to sort of talk about his story and his history, because he's not that well known. But the system that they are doing there, all the coaches are trained in. I don't want to say it's the William Pato Alvarez system, because Emilio and Sergio were Pato's students, and they sort of adapted the method a little bit, but it's basically coming from Pato Alvarez. It's coming from the legend of Spain, the godfather of Spain, the 800-pound gorilla of Spain, the guy who basically transformed the whole country with his mind, his method, his charisma and his passion and his hard work and dedication. This guy, the only way I can describe it to people who are not from Spain, this guy was like a Nick Bollettieri, like a Rick Macy, like that type of figure. And this guy, the system there is still, it's basically Pato lives on there, which that's really special. Can you send that question again? Because on YouTube Live, the comments come up really quickly, and there's probably a way to like sticky them or something, but I don't know how to do it. So I just think it's still a very special place, despite there people have criticisms of that academy. I think it's still an amazing place to train, especially if you get, like, they have a private lesson package. Like, I was looking at their different options, so they have something new that never existed before. I mean, it's very American. They offer, you can get one-on-one training in addition to the regular academy training. Whether you can criticize that or not, but that's like kind of a new thing that they've been doing. And I think if you get that sort of deal, you get a one-on-one plus like the regular academy drills. I think it's a very powerful system. It's a very rote. It's a system based on rote repetition, which is a turnoff for some people. Are the older Spanish academies outcompeted by Nadal? Yeah, so that's a very good point. That's kind of what happened to Sanchez-Casal. You see people call it the older Spanish academy. Like, it's sort of been lost. It's been eclipsed. It's been sort of stomped on by mainly the Rafa Nadal Academy, which is this giant, another giant 800-pound gorilla that's a little harder to get to in Mallorca, but they came in, I don't know, 2015, 2016 maybe they started built. My book was printed in, I think, 2014, and there's no mention of the Rafa Nadal Academy because it didn't exist. And so this huge operation, I want to say like a magnet, like the Rafa Nadal Academy definitely has hurt a lot of the programs on the mainland. They don't want to talk about that, but I mean, there's no doubt that when the Rafa Nadal built that thing, and that thing is they're like a marketing machine over there, that it's hurting all the business on the mainland. All the academies on the mainland. Yeah, I've been there, of course, and I need to go and again for some updates, but I've actually studied Toni's system a lot. I took a very extensive online course with Toni's methodology and philosophy, but I've been to the academy, of course, and I've interviewed Toni personally, actually one-on-one live. I interviewed him, and and I've written several articles on his teaching method and philosophy. So I feel like I understand what they're doing over there very well. But they have definitely, I mean, and not only in Spain, but they draw, I mean, heck, I probably lose business to the Rafa Nadal Academy. Rafa Nadal Academy is marketing all over the world. They're building satellite academies all over the world. They market here, even I'm in the northeastern United States. They have camps here that compete directly with my camp, which I don't appreciate. But the camps are, I would say, not nearly as high quality as what you might get as an annual player at the Rafa Nadal Academy. I don't think it's equivalent to what you would get in Spain if you're an annual student. Let's put it that way. But They have a huge marketing budget, and they're funded, and they do a lot of advertising, and they draw a lot of players from around the world. And you can't say that that doesn't affect the other places in Spain. It's had a huge effect. Maybe it contributed. You could argue that it contributed to the closing of Bruguera Academy. And I was happy to see that the Sanchez-Casal Academy. My first trip to Spain was in 2006, I believe, and I went directly to the Sanchez-Casal Academy in Barcelona, the Open Tennis Club, in just outside of Barcelona in the suburbs. It's right by the airport, and I spent a few weeks there taking their certification course many years ago, and Pato Alvarez was there, and I got to study with him every day. It was like the most amazing experience for me as a young coach. So I actually have these wonderful memories of my first study trip ever to Spain, and I have a lot of good memories at that club, and it was really wonderful for me just on a personal level to be back there, to be walking the grounds. Everything looked almost the same. Everything looks good. The club's in nice shape. I don't know why they can't clean up the entrance there. There's like graffiti on the entrance by the highway, and there's trash. It's dirty on the entrance. Once you get to the club grounds and go through the gates, the club is immaculate. But I don't understand why they can't clean up the entrance to the club, because I'm assuming they have the power and the finances to do that. It just doesn't make sense to me why they let the entrance. There's like a little access road that you take off the highway, and it's just like very dirty and trashy. I don't know why they just don't clean that up regularly. It doesn't make sense to me, just from a optics point of view or aesthetics. But once you get to the club grounds, it's immaculate, and it's a beautiful club. It's kind of in this farming area just off the highway, so there's nothing you can really walk to. You can walk to the hotel where I stayed, actually, which is nice, but the hotel is not as nice as it used to be either. The hotel is a little drab and dark, and it's like a corporate hotel that you can walk to and stay in. It's not as nice as I remembered it the first time, but you can't really walk to a village or anything. That's what made the Bruguera Academy so unique and special. One second, I'll answer that question about Ferrer. So the Bruguera Academy was up in the mountains. It was in a village. It was in the village of Santa Coloma. And it was just so unique. Like, you could just walk down the hill, and you could go shopping, go to the grocery, and really like live the life of a Spanish local. That's what made the place so darn special. And I used to, I spent many summers there with my family, actually, and that just will never happen again. It's really sad. But Sanchez-Casal doesn't really have that option to walk to places. So you asked me about the David Ferrer Academy. That's one academy that I haven't been to. For whatever reason, I was down in Alicante, and I actually had a meeting to go see them on this trip, and I decided to stay in Juan Carlos Ferrero's academy because Alcaraz was there, and I wanted to watch Alcaraz train every day. So I actually had planned a trip to David Ferrer's academy. I mean, I can tell you some information about it. They have a brand new sport facility that they built. So they have this brand new facility in a new location, and they're trying to do high performance, just like Juan Carlos Ferrero. I think if you want to go to Alicante, you should definitely check out JC Ferrero's academy first, because it's kind of the most successful in that area. But I followed the Ferrer Academy closely online, and they have they're definitely producing good players. So I think I can't say for sure, because I haven't visited and studied there as much as at all, and so I can only tell you that they're well respected, and I assume they do a professional job. But I don't have firsthand experience going to their new facility. They have a new sport training center, some sort of partnership with like a local park. I was talking to the representative about it, but that's all I can tell you about Ferrer. I will talk about J.C. Ferrero because I spent a few days there and it was really fascinating. So that's really where I would start if you're going down to Alicante. There are some other smaller academies also in Valencia and Alicante that if you're a futures player, depending on your ranking, you might consider. One of them is Lozano Altour. Lozano, Lozano dash Altour, Altur. Those are two top coaches in Spain, and they have a partnership, and they cater to professional players at Lozano Altour. I have another friend in Elche, which is also in Alicante, in the Alicante region, who caters only to professional players, small academies. There's a number of smaller academies now that are popping up, not just in Alicante, but also in Barcelona. So if you are a professional level, like you don't need like a full academy. You're not bringing like an 11 or 12-year-old kid over. If you're more like a futures player or a high-level college player, there are a number of smaller options that you probably never even heard of that you might be able to get a good deal at and get very professional, pretty hardcore Spanish training that you would never know about unless you read my book. I'm going to put those new ones in my book so people can, in that situation, can look into it. But those aren't places for young kids or beginners or even intermediate players, things like that. There's another one, Four Slam in Barcelona, which is incredible. Really good training at Four Slam. But they cater to very high-level ITF and professional players. So, if you need like a full-service academy, you have fewer choices. There are places like the smaller ones usually only take pros, transitional pros, or good college players or ITF players or things like that. The full-service academies are like Sanchez-Casal, another one, Barcelona Total Tennis. J.C. Ferrero does a full-service academy. These are Rafael Nadal Academy. RNA does that full service as well. So like they can accommodate pretty much all levels of people coming in. And I'll differentiate that in the book. I'll make sure, I don't want anyone going to an academy that has a very high standard and they're not prepared for that. That would be a big shock for a player to go there. They probably wouldn't accept, they probably want to see like video or do a trial. Some of those places want to do a trial of your game. So yeah, I wanted to kind of just almost remind everyone, and I'm going to do this in the book too, that Sanchez-Casal Academy is still, it's not called Sanchez-Casal, it was called Emilio Sanchez Academy, because Sergio retired. That's another new, a lot of news there. That's big news in the Spanish tennis coaching world. So Sergio Casal retired, and the whole academy has been rebranded Emilio Sanchez Academy. I think the teaching system is arguably the best teaching system or method in the world. It is the brainchild. It is the continuation of the teaching philosophy and method of William Pato Alvarez, a legend. And there's something really special about that. There's something very special about training within that style. That's the style that helped propel Spain to the top of the world in the 1970s and 1980s. William Pato Alvarez was pushing Spain upward with his incredible energy and passion. And there was another coach at that time, Luis Bruguera, who was also propelling Spain up. And I think what I argued in the book, and I still believe very strongly, is those two figures were instrumental in the rise of Spanish tennis in the 1980s especially, and in the early 90s. And without those two dynamic figures, Spain probably wouldn't be where it is today in terms of its tennis success. But that is, I can't prove that, but I can make a case for that. So I think those two figures are really determinant in terms of what happened in Spain in the past 30 or 40 years. And that, to me, that captured my interest as a writer and as a coach. And that's part of how I got into studying in Spain and writing the original book, because that story captured my curiosity. The story of those two legends and their influence on this small country, that it piqued my interest. So Sanchez-Casal is there. Don't forget about the old Academy, Sanchez-Casal, because it still has this amazing teaching system and a lot of dedicated coaches. there are. I mean, we can get into some of the criticisms there, but some of the downsides. One is that what's really interesting. I'm going to talk about this in the book. Is that there's four of them now. You know, it's like a commercial enterprise now. It's not just one place where, you know, Emilio used to be there, Sergio used to be there, whole team of Davis Cup coaches used to be there, and then Andy Murray was there, and Dimitrov and Kuznetsova, and like it's not just one place anymore. Emilio's in Naples now, and I think the coaching quality is still very good, but it's just not the same. Like you would never know that unless you'd been there back in the day. But it's just it can't once you branch out and have lots of different basically satellite operations. Once you have divisions, and once you go multinational. So Emilio has, you know, his academy in Naples. He has an academy in. The guy is amazing. Emilio is incredibly smart and very good coach and a very good business person. He's incredible. He has an academy in Atlanta and an academy in China, and still the original Barcelona academy. It's unbelievable. But when you go multinational like that, and you have to create, like I was looking at their information, their marketing information. Like you have to have divisions, you have to have a hierarchy, you have to have you know, different managers at different levels. It's not the same as when you just have like one place, you know, like the way it used to be. It was just the that's not to say you can't get good training there. I'm just saying that's a reality, and you start talking about systems and methods more rather than the interpersonal coaching between just like a guru or a very experienced coach and the player. You deal more like in our system, our methods. You see that a lot with the Emilio Sanchez Academy. But I'm saying that method is incredibly special. If you understand the history and roots of that method, it's the teaching system that propelled Spain to the top of the world, along with Bruguera, which is a slightly different teaching system or teaching method. But anyway, for me, that academy is, I think a lot of people overlook it now because they say it's old, or you know, it sometimes it gets the criticism that it's too commercial. But I think if you go there, you can get really high level professional training, and if you like that system, that's the system of Pato Alvarez. That they have a certain style. There's a lot of repetitions. They do a specific sequence of baskets per day. And if you go there and you enjoy that system, it can be It can be an amazing place to train with one of the original systems of Spain, teaching methods. If you like doing those baskets every day, some people don't like the rote repetition aspect. That's the way Pato Alvarez trained players. You know, that's the way he believed in doing it. Lots and lots of baskets like that. So if that's your thing, you might love it there, and you get this great professional school as well. And anyway, guys, I'm not being, this is not an infomercial for Sanchez-Casal. This is just my impressions. And by the way, is anyone tired of podcasts that are just like infomercials nowadays? Like every podcast that I listen to, and I listen to a lot of tennis podcasts, and I was talking to another friend of mine who listens to a lot of tennis podcasts. Have you guys noticed that a lot of podcasts now are like very commercialized, where you feel like the guest has paid for like an advertising spot? Like I'm seeing that, or I'm listening to that more and more. It's kind of bugging me. And I want you guys to know that this show, I'm broadcasting from my daughter's bedroom. This is legit. Like this is real. Like no one's paying me. I mean, I may have my biases, but you're just getting the straight dope, you know, like this is real. and I won't be selling out to anyone. I mean, I guess I talked about some of the things that I am selling at the onset, but I mean, this is my career, my work, my writing, my projects, you know. But I mean, yeah, I do this podcast to grow. I'm doing some marketing here, but I mean, you're just trying to, you know, grow your name and share your ideas. And so we're definitely doing that. But have you noticed that a lot of the tennis podcasts, like even some of the most, I'm not going to name names, but there's some very well-known tennis podcasts. They seem more and more like an infomercial, or with like product and service placements. It's happening, I guess, all over the podcast industry. Yeah, the Payers and Players guys, I know that those guys very well, but they haven't been putting shows lately. That's a legit show. Like, those are real tennis dads, and they're smart. Payers and Players is a good one. You know, there's not that many podcasts out there. I have a few listeners of the show who told me that they're running out of options in the tennis podcast world because they feel the commercialism entering the spaces, and it's hard to get good information. What I do now is I search. I love listening to podcasts, so I listen to podcasts when I work. I work out a lot. I'm kind of like I'm like a gym freak, and I'm doing a lot of training with my son, who's a runner. So I'm doing a lot of, I do like martial arts. I'm very, if you know me, like, I'm constantly working out. So I like to take that time and like listen to interesting podcasts, and so what I do is I search for guests who I know are good quality guests, but it's getting harder and harder to find. Like, I try to listen to, if I find Emilio Sanchez on a program, I don't care what program, I always love to listen to that. Or if I find a Jose Higueras on a random program, I'll listen to that. But more and more the shows seem to be very, very money driven, and like product and service placements, or like ads, more than a show. I could get into some very funny criticisms of other shows. I'm not going to do that, just because I don't want to start flaming other shows. But you may know who I'm referring to. There's some very well known, much more well known than my show, much more popular than my show in the tennis space. There's a few of them that I think are just like comical. Like, it's so obvious and blatant that someone's paid to be on the show and talk about whatever they're doing, and just, I don't know how people can listen to that and take it seriously. So anyway, so in Spain, the Luis Bruguera, the whole team of Bruguera, the top coaches, they've tried to reconstitute themselves as the Bordeaux tennis team, Bordeaux competition team. Check that out. It's called Bordeaux Academy. They have a new location. It's just, for me, it's hard for them to. It's hard for them to. I can't get the old place out of my mind, which I love so much. It was so endearing to me, the old place, and so the new location, they're like renting space at a new club in Cornellà, which is just very close to Barcelona city, and it's a perfectly nice sports club. It's interesting, that club used to be the Center for Catalan Tennis. I guess the Catalan Tennis Federation is still there, but they're not operating an academy anymore. So there are a lot of independent programs and coaches training out of this club in Cornellà. It's a big it's a big club with lots of courts. They have hard courts and clay courts. I was learning the background of the club. One of the famous Spanish players bought the club and is renovating it, so it's coming back to life. Who was that player? The name of the owner slips my mind, but it's a professional tennis player. Bought that club in Cornellà. And he's renovating it, and it's getting nicer and nicer again, coming back to life. And so there are a lot of independent coaches and academies there. Some of the small ones, which I'll mention in the book, where like they train more pros, and there are independent coaches there. Like if you were an independent coach in Barcelona, you could go and rent time at this club and teach there. And there's a few other places like that. The Jimeno, the Andres Jimeno club in Castelldefels is another one where you can do that. And there are some programs there like Barcelona Tennis Academy and Elite Tennis Academy, which I tell people to be cautious about, actually, those two academies, because they also are sort of they're independent, and they lease. They don't own their facility. They lease courts and do their programs that way. In the same way, Bordeaux is trying to grow and sort of recapture the glory of the Bruguera days. And I'm hopeful they can do it. I have a lot of my friends there, so I guess I'm a little biased. I hope that they can rebuild and they have a really good team of coaches there because they're all Bruguera trained coaches, and Luis Bruguera is there frequently offering his advice. But Luis is getting older, and he has a lot of projects going on. But he's still like the genius legend that he is. It's just if you have time, like the guy is has one of the sharpest tennis minds I've ever known, and I've learned an incredible amount from him. So what can I say? They're trying to rebuild as Bardot, Bardou. And if you want to give that place a try, if you are a big Bruguera fan, or you want to get some time with Luis Bruguera, or Sergio Bruguera is sometimes there as well, that's a very special place to go. And I couldn't not recommend that because obviously the team is very professional and very good. So they're there, still in Barcelona. The academy that I send a lot of players to is BTT, which is Barcelona Total Tennis, which I did not visit this time, but I've been there many, many times. And BTT is not as well known, but again, a place where you can get very high level training in Barcelona. And in Barcelona as well, there's Forslam, which apparently I am persona non grata there because they have some squabble with Bruguera, and they know that I've been trained by Bruguera, so I'm not really allowed to like go to Forslam for whatever reason. But I know that just from researching them that it's a really good place. The training it's small. They only have, I think they have seven. Let's say 7 or 8 or 9 courts. It's a small place, very professionally run by former pros, and that's a place that even though they did invite me, I'm still gonna include them in the book. You want to know how impartial I am? I'm still gonna include them in the book, and I always give them a good recommendation for high-level players to go visit. It's called Forslam, the number 4 It's in Gavà, one of my favorite little beach towns in the southwest of Barcelona. So Forslam, if you have a higher level player, like a pro or an ITF kid, that's a really cool, not as well-known place to receive professional training. See, guys, you should let me come visit because of all I say is good things about you guys. Anyway, so I made the road trip down I didn't go to Mallorca. In Mallorca, basically, you have 3 options of training. You have the Vilas Academy. You have global tennis. My friend Joffrey Porta is the king there, and he's a legend. And you have RNA, which is Rafa Nadal Academy, which is big, glossy, like the Bolleteri Academy of Spain, even like the IMG, kind of like the IMG Academy, where you can get a lot of really high-level training if you're a serious player and you hook up with the right coaches, but you can also get a lot of uneven training there depending on your level. You could get lost in the cracks. Then there's a lot of recreational players going there just to say that they went to the Rafael Nadal Academy. So you get a lot of kids who are not as serious there because they're just sort of like tourists. It's like kind of like a celebrity holiday thing. But that's how they run a business. That's part of the business. There are places in Spain that don't do any of that. They don't do any holiday celebrity type deals. You go to RNA and you can go to the museum and you might get to see Rafa there or some other pros. It's very, very cool. So the other place I made the road trip down to Valencia and Alicante. Had my little stick shift. Got my manual transmission, had a little Euro car, and I was working those gears, heading south to Alicante. It's about a 4 or 5 hour drive. Specifically, they wanted to give me an automatic transmission. I said, no, I want manuel. I asked for the manuel, which is how they pronounce the manual. And the guy looked at me like, he had the guy at Hertz had a bit more respect for me when I asked for the manuel. So I drove my little, probably 4-cylinder Euro car, drove that thing down to JC Ferrero Academy, and I haven't been there in, gosh, at least 10 years. And the academy hasn't changed that much. It's grown a bit. They've added courts, they've added some facilities, but it's still kind of a medium-sized academy. It's certainly not the monstrosity that the certainly not as expansive as the Rafa Nadal Academy is. But anyway, so I was there for a few days. It was awesome. I stayed right at their rural hotel, which is like they have these cabins on site, and I basically followed around the academy players all day and watched all the coaches work, which was awesome. And they have an incredibly professional place there. I think it's much better if you're a pro. Like they definitely cater to pros and high level ITF kids. They have a amazing level of especially boys. Like their boys and men's team is very, very high level, like very top in Spain, top in Europe, top ITF juniors, and they have a number of professional players at JC Ferrero. Equalite. I think it's Equalite. I don't know why that's part of their name because no one can pronounce it. Like Equalite. I think it's I want to know why they named it JC Ferrero Equalite. I don't really understand what it means. Maybe balance or something. But the place is, if you're like a high level male, the place is amazing, and the level is very, very high. But I think if you're like just like a tourist, or you're a younger kid and you're coming for a few weeks or like summer camp, I mean, I think you have to be careful because I'm not sure the training is the same for the pros as for the kids who are lower level. Like, and that's something I always watch out for when I visit academies. I want to know, like, if I bring like an 11 or 12-year-old who's not top ranked, like, are they getting like super professional training like everybody else? And that's something you have to investigate more at JC Ferrero. But I mean, if you have a high level player, their pro team, their ITF team is amazing, and the coaches are so dedicated and passionate. So I highly recommend that for if you have that level of a player. I have a question about basket feeding. I'll answer that in a moment. In JC Ferrero, the facilities are more modest than at Rafa Nadal Academy. Rafa Nadal Academy, the facilities are more luxurious, and JC Ferrero, I would say it's a nice place, but a little more humble in terms of the facilities, the restaurant, or even compared to Sanchez-Casal. The restaurant at Sanchez-Casal is like a very high-end, I would say, probably the best academy restaurant I've been to. Things are a little bit more modest down in Vienna, in the Alicante area for JC Ferrero, but the facilities are very nice. The clay courts are beautiful. They have a very simple gym. Like, they don't have a fancy technologically advanced gym, just very simple gym setup. And they work the Spanish way. They suffer. They endure. They're very, very disciplined. That's something that's really separates that academy. The kids are so well behaved. I think they must throw out every kid who misbehaves, because the behavior, the level of courtesy and respect on the court from all the players is unusual. There are no, I didn't see, I was there for a few days, didn't see like any whining, no complaining, no disrespecting the coaches. Like, I know they have a very strict standard for character and morality, and they have a lot of rules for behavior, and I don't think they mess around at JC Ferrero. I think if you're not following the rules or behaving well, I think you're out. And for better for worse, the atmosphere is impressive, because they have all these kids who are just like going about their business and working hard and not making a lot of drama. And I think that makes for a very special place to train. But I remember visiting the first time, and they were talking to me about all the rules that they had, like the following the rules and proper behavior was a really important thing at JC Ferrero. And I think partly because JC Ferrero lives there, and Antonio Cascales also lives there. He lives there. Those are the owners of the academy. I think they don't put up with any crap, and they don't want any drama going on near their basically their home. Like the academy is built around JC Ferrero's private home, and he's walking around all the time. I was disappointed that JC himself, Juan Carlos, I met him he's like super cool dude. Like he looks like a model. He has model looks, and he sort of like walks around calmly, sometimes wearing sunglasses, and he doesn't speak that much. He's not very verbal, but when he does speak, like he everyone seems to really perk up and listen to him. But I was surprised that he's not as vocal as I thought he would be. You know, if my name was on the academy, I would I would be like talking to everyone. Like you go to like Rick Macy's academy, and he's calling out everyone. Everyone's got a nickname. You know, it's very verbal and vocal. And Juan Carlos is like very taciturn, which is like a word for like quiet and reserved. He's very laconic. Is that the right word? Like he's definitely a man of few words, and which I think is kind of a disappointment because like if you go there, it's hard to get there. It's not the easiest place to travel to. It's not like flying direct to Barcelona. Like it'd be nice if he'd throw out a bone to all the kids there, like especially all the campers, the young kids. You know, I kind of miss like what Rick Macy does. Is Macy's a genius as far as I'm concerned. I've been listening to a lot of Macy interviews and podcasts. The guy's he always impresses me. The guy's a genius. Anyway, Macy's got like nicknames and calling out people, say, "Hey, you, awesome job over there." You know, "Hey man, what's up?" Uh, I was really shocked that Juan Carlos is he's there. He's definitely there walking around, but I got the sense he's spending more time with the pro team, and he just not as maybe not I mean not as charismatic or not as vocal as he could be, which I think is a shame because obviously he's got like a great knowledge, and it'd be awesome if he shared that with all the little kids that revere him because he's like a god there. He's wonky, you know, they call him wonky. He looks like a god. He's got like these. I'm stunned by his good looks, and he sort of he walks around quietly and dispenses a little bit of knowledge to the pro players, but he's a little bit aloof when it comes to the others, which I thought I don't understand, you know, because people come to visit me in my academy. I try to make an impression on everyone, try to speak with all the kids, get to try to make a connection, like a connection with. I guess you could say he's a little bit disconnected from the kids who are not pros. Also charging 2,000 an hour, which is a lot. I think that's the most that I've encountered for a private lesson. It's not super available if you want to take lessons with him, and it's 2,000 per hour if you want one. So you got to bring the big bucks if you're going to JC Ferrero and you want some FaceTime with Juan Carlos. You got to bring the bankroll. That's even more than Macy. I mean, Macy's charging about 800. So you're getting a deal with Rick Macy, and you're probably getting a much cooler nickname with Rick Macy. Anyway, the question was, can you develop a champion with baskets? And I think that I asked Luis Bruguera that question, and he said you have to do baskets to make the players get the repetitions and make them tough. But I have my questions about that. I think it's probably possible with a talented kid, especially if you're working one-on-one, to do a lot more live ball and still develop a tough, strong player with all the requisite tools. But in Spain, for better or for worse, a lot of the coaches there, Pato Alvarez and Luis Bruguera, I think they concur that baskets are the way to develop the discipline and the stamina and the stroke production and movement and footwork and movement. You use baskets to develop those skills on a daily basis. That's definitely a huge part of the Spanish way. And for some people, that's a big turnoff, to be honest. Some people, they find the Spanish way, the traditional Spanish way. In Spain, the methods there are evolving. But traditionally, there's a lot of baskets, so much so that it can be a turnoff. It can be potentially a trigger for burnout, potentially a trigger for boredom. To me, I don't know if you ever studied the mathematical system called, or method called Kuman. which my kids did Kumon for a number of years, which is a Japanese method of learning math, and it's through rote repetition. You do you memorize calculation after calculation, and it's like arithmetic after all usually starting with arithmetic, and the Spanish way in the minds of Luis Bruguera and Pato Alvarez definitely sort of reminds me of that Kumon style, where you come, you do your repetitions every day, and you memorize these things, and then from there you have the foundation to become a top player. But not all Spanish coaches believe that. Not all Spanish coaches are as strict as that. For example, Juan Carlos Ferrero's coach, Antonio Cascales, down in Alicante, he definitely is not as big a believer in rote training. I found that really interesting. The philosophy at JC Ferrero is more balanced. Some drills, some live ball, a bit more balance in terms of how many baskets are we going to do. You definitely got that sense at Juan Carlos Ferrero's Academy. I think Tony Nadal is also like that. So more balance in terms of philosophy and method. Jose Higueras, who I've spent a long time studying with, famous Spanish coach, definitely more balance in terms of how much basket work versus live ball. So I think, but when you talk about the legends, the godfathers, the grandfathers, the founding fathers of Spanish tennis, Luis Bruguera and Pato Alvarez, they definitely came from a place where they felt that you needed to do a lot of baskets, a lot of repetitions to get tough and strong, and to build up your stamina and discipline. So I hope that helps answer that question. But guys, I'm running over time here. I got to go volunteer on the ambulance. And the question is, what rallies and live ball drills? Yes, I know there's two basic philosophies. You have coaches who believe more in live ball because it's more realistic, and others who believe in dead ball training and basket training. I think I did a podcast on this probably back in the day. If you look back through the podcast or YouTube shows, I think we did a podcast on that subject exactly. I know I've written articles on that, but it's an interesting topic that I'd be happy to talk more with you about. But it's pretty nuanced because it depends on the personality of the player. Some players really prefer more rote repetition, and some players need a more creative live ball environment to thrive. I think it can go. I think you can create a champion either with either style, but you got to know the type of kid you have or the type of player you have in front of you. But I'm gonna go do overnight on the ambulance, guys, because as you know, I'm not only tennis coach, I'm also answering 911 calls one night a week as a volunteer EMT. So wish me luck on the ambulance tonight. God bless. And if you have any questions about tennis development or what I've been saying in Spain, gosh, we could probably do a whole nother show. Just keep talking about my Spain trip. But if you have any questions about, my latest trip to Spain and the latest trends there, what's happening with the academies or the coaches there, just hit me up with an email or message me or WhatsApp me. All right, thanks, guys. God bless. Have a good night.